Hello everyone, this is Marcel here. Welcome to my channel. Today I would like to discuss this concept of chubby chasing, all these guys that have a taste for them bigger women, the rise of the fat acceptance movement, as well as some of the stars that are popping up all over the place, like Meghan Trainor, for example. I mention her less because she happens to be big and more because she actually makes her bigness a factor in her music. It's one of her selling points. She's really not that large anyway. I'm not going to go too far into obesity and the Western diet because I've already covered a video on that. If you're curious, I will put a link to it right there. So let's briefly break down a series of events that started this whole trend when it comes to obesity. First, food became more abundant in our society, mostly speaking to Western society, and the quality of the food went down substantially, in the sense that it became very cost efficient to create high calorie food. So it's less that it's particularly bad, it's just that there's a lot of it. That's kind of besides the point. So you have a lot of food available and people just start eating more, right? They get bigger faster. You got it in both genders. Everybody's wolfing down all this food. Men are typically able to burn fat easier and faster than women are. That primarily comes from the fact that men are designed to store fat for the purpose of survival, fueling their muscles to defend the family and kill the mammoth, looking back at evolution. Women are designed to store fat to feed the baby, to keep it alive for procreation. So the fat is located differently on their body, and they hold on to it more stubbornly. Not to mention that muscle mass is extremely resource intensive. It requires a lot of energy to keep it going, and men typically have more of it, so they burn more fuel just to stay alive. So looking at it as such, we have a culture here that is basically cranking out more big women. And how does that affect a society as a whole? Well, to understand my viewpoint on this, I'm going to introduce a concept here, which is the difference between attractiveness and desirability. Let's say, just for the purposes of this discussion, if someone is attractive, that means that the other party wants to procreate with that person based upon a biological drive. It may be triggered by hormones, visual cues, emotional, romantic triggers, things that the person won't have a real control over, that society doesn't influence for the most part. Then we have someone that's desirable because of attributes that have nothing to do with nature and perhaps everything to do with society. Attractiveness can be affected on a biological level, but that takes thousands of years and is based on more reproductive trends than just cultural shifts. That would almost have to become a discussion on feedback from reproductive fitness, and I won't get into that right now. Though it is the reason why someone from a different continent can have different attractions that are relative to their geologic upbringing. Let me give you an example to put this all into perspective. Say for a minute that all 90-year-old men became millionaires. No jokes or gimmicks. It's legitimately, when they turn 90, they'll have more than $1 million in their bank. And that women as a mass, as a whole, honestly believe that. They've experienced it to be true. How many women do you think would flock to 90-year-old men? Quite a few of them, I would imagine. In a sense, 90-year-old men would become very desirable based upon those other social cues, but it wouldn't be a sexual attraction, at least for the vast majority of those women. I do suspect that over time, once they've rode through a couple dozen geezers, that they might start to like it. They'll decide, this isn't so bad, I can get used to it, and they kind of program themselves into the idea. I can see that happening. But as a whole, they're not going to be into it physically, and that's fine. It goes against their biological imperative. The minute that society removes that $1 million occurrence, the interest in those men would dry up, and so would the women. They'd be gone. Looking at the other spectrum here, you've got a culture that has created an abundance of heavyset women. For a period of time, they had really low confidence. They were ashamed of themselves because of the greater opinion of our culture. With a drop of confidence, you have a lowering of standards towards the males that are allowed to couple with those women. So they were willing to get with lower quality men based on their own perceived market values. The end goal is usually the same. They're just hoping that some guy will come along and roll them down the aisle, pair bond with them. This created en masse a wide belief that bigger women were easier to get with, and a great deal of the blue pill men out there are only interested in getting laid. So once the guys realized, hey, come get the getting while the getting's good, there was a metaphorical rush on that type of woman within the sexual market. See, the thing is that these men weren't necessarily attracted to them. Maybe after a while they got used to the idea, though I find it pretty hard to believe that en masse men are really interested in, a woman that's 3 times their size and yet a foot shorter. It goes against their biological imperative, but for a time, all of these women were more accessible. Thinking of it as kind of a ebb and tide, a wave that flowed all this attention and resources towards these larger women, they started getting their egos back. They started getting this overinflated sense of self-worth based upon their size, not realizing that it was that accessibility that was causing it. So now it's all balancing out. Their ego rises up to meet their attention and validation that they're receiving. And it's getting to a point where they believe that they're better now, that they are more valuable than like a skinny girl would be, for example, because of all that attention. Feminism comes along as kind of a separate entity in all of this, and I almost believe that they're fanning the flame to push along that confidence, and it's fully self-interested. Not to mention a great deal of them are heavyset themselves. I have noticed, let's say within the last few years, that bigger women are being more disrespectful and rude en masse, and that's just based upon who I'm interacting with. So limited to what, maybe a few hundred women a day between school, work, passing by. I got to admit, there's nothing more confusing than a 400-pound over-entitled princess, and I can't imagine that many guys are happy with the prospect of dating one. In a lot of ways, I see this whole thing as just being a simple supply and demand, kind of an economics discussion, that for a while supply was really high and the demand rose to meet it, but now the price is going up to meet the demand, and eventually the demand will drop. Another big thing that this is going to change is this whole concept of security that comes from the fact that a female partner, is overweight brings. So a guy can't feel like just because his woman is big, she's not going to go out and cheat on him, leave him, or just decide to dump the relationship like a pile of trash, because their confidence is going up now in this current society, this trend. Sandman made a video a while back. I'll put a link to it down below, and right there, this guy spent all this time trying to help his wife lose weight, and after all that hard work and effort, she winds up just giving him the runaround, screwing around on him anyway. And it's heartbreaking to hear that. Now we're getting to a time where that isn't even a factor anymore. Like, having to lose the weight won't even matter. It's one less reason to even consider the prospect of a relationship, and one more reason just to go your own way. In a sense, it's proof that there is no real security. Nothing to guarantee that the woman's mindset won't just change in a minute for no reason, and she'll walk away from all the guy's hard work. Toss him out like last year's phone book. He was useful while he was there. Now, looking at me and my past experiences, over the years I've dated a few heavy-set women, and I can't say that their attitude towards me was really any different once the relationship got established. Maybe getting in the door was easier, but once I was there wasn't really any differences. They were just women. They treated me the same, the experience was about the same, the outcomes were almost identical. Most of them already had kids, and that may have been something that attributed to their obesity in the first place, because it is harder to lose that weight once they have kids. Thing is, thirsty guys are going to walk around asking, and the first ones that say yes are the ones that get the attention and resources for it. It's pretty straightforward. Now, normally, at the end of my videos, I would say something like, well, this is why I believe that, heavy-set women are not actually attractive. But in the end, that's just going to be my perspective, and I don't want to take that viewpoint away from anyone that's listening. So you guys tell me. What do you think? Is there something to everything I've said here, or am I totally off base? I want to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like. If you want to hear more content like mine, subscribe. Until next time, this has been Marcel.